Alright guys, welcome back for another video on HAIKYU Fly High, and today it's going to be another highly requested topic, which is going to be the future banner release order and also recommendations on which character should you be saving up for or summon in the future. Now, first thing, just to clarify, there are actually two servers outside of global. One is the JP server, which is where the game originally launched, and then there's actually a Taiwan server, which was launched I think 3 or 4 months after the JP server. However, it was going at an accelerated rate, and now I think they're almost in sync, or maybe only like 1 or 2 week difference. And the one I'm going to show you guys today, the banner order, is actually taken from the Taiwan server, because clearly global is actually trying to catch up, and I will tell you why I know for sure global is trying to catch up. And as a result, I feel like the global server is probably going to align slightly more closer to the Taiwan server, and that's kind of why I'm going to show the Taiwan release order for reference. Now, so why do I know the global version is going to try to catch up? That's because both on the JP server and also on Taiwan server, they did actually start off with both Suki, Kageyama, and also Nishinoya in separate banners. Both JP and Taiwanese server actually had them all in separate banners. However, as we can see on global, we have all three of them merged together in one single select banner. And in fact, the format of select banner wasn't actually introduced fairly later on both the JP and Taiwan server. So clearly, we're already getting some of the mechanics later down the line. And the other thing you can also tell, obviously, is that we are getting Yushijima already as a very first UR character. However, and we'll obviously we also have some of the SR character which wasn't actually a launch for both the JP and also Taiwan server. However, at the same time, we also miss a few characters. So clearly, we are switching up the banner order slightly. We are not really exactly sure how global is going to follow suit exactly, but I would say probably just take it with a pinch of salt because everything is still subject to change on the global server, okay? Now, the way I'm going to do this video is obviously I'll be showing you guys the banner order. I will also post this link in the comment section, by the way, so you guys actually can take a look to see it yourself. And obviously, credit and huge shout out to whoever actually posted this. This is actually on blog forum, so clearly they actually put in the effort to screenshot everything and actually compile that in a post. So huge shout out to them as well. Now, the way I'm going to do it is that I'll be talking about the character release order, and as the character get released, I'll give 1 or 2 comments about what I think that character is good or not, what kind of role are they typically play, and should you be summoning for them or not. Oh, something I also forgot to mention is that this post only goes up as far as the UR Kageyama banner, and then the author didn't post anymore. Now, this is actually fine in my opinion now, because after the UR Kageyama banner, that's where then they started releasing SP character, which for you guys don't know, SP stands for special, and they are basically character with a certain sim. So they're kind of like costume character, and they split into different sims. So there's, for example, like a school sim where they were in school uniform. Then there's like a summer beach wear sim as well. Now, SP character, they are actually a bit of a finger in the air situation right now because they actually face a lot of backlash. When they were first introduced, the tickets were not actually transferable between the different sims. So for example, if you have some ticket from the school sim, you can't actually use it in the summer sim anymore. And also the character was released with much higher power than even the UR character, and you just face a lot of backlash altogether on both the JP server and also on the Taiwan server. So as a result, they have actually changed quite a few things on the SP banners recently. They have actually changed the banner tickets so they're actually transferable between the different sims, and they have also made the latest UR character just as strong as the SP character to kind of showcase, SP actually equals UR rather than SP being higher than UR. So as a whole, I'm not actually too sure how global is going to follow suit in terms of the SP character, because clearly we could be getting them already as the way they are currently in Taiwan, or they could be the way they were first launched back in JP. We don't actually know yet, and in fact, they may just change the whole concept of SP altogether by the time global actually catch up. So that's kind of why, conveniently, this doesn't actually go any further than SP character, and also SP character use a totally different type of tickets altogether as well. So I don't think we actually need to worry about SP characters till later down the line when we actually know exactly how they are going to be rolled out on global. Now, the way all of the banners on JP and also Taiwan server have been released have always been in batches of the school. So basically, it tends to release like 4 or 5 characters from the same school in a row before then moving on to the next school, etc. Now, highly suspect, what I highly personally speculate and suspect will be happening on global first, is going to be the Nekoma school. And that's because the next UR we should be getting should be the UR version of Kuro, because that's the second UR on both the JP and also Taiwanese server. And also the SSR that we are yet yet to have, even though they have been released fairly early on the JP and also the Taiwan server, are the Liberal and also the setter from Nekoma school as well, so Kenma and also Yaku. So I highly expect, personally, my own speculation is going to be we'll be getting the UR banner for the UR version of Kuro, and then we'll probably get a select recruit banner of Kenma plus Yaku, and personally, maybe the third one, they will either do a rerun of Lief, or they could actually introduce a new character from Shiratorizawa as well. I'm not too sure, but what I personally suspect is actually going to be more for Lief, so that we get a perfect 3 character from the same school, Nekoma, and also the UR banner at the same time. Now, out of all of this, which ones would you actually want to summon for? I will go through the SSR first. So first of all, if you actually want to go for a Nekoma's team, you have to know that they only have 4 characters of the same name, which are at least SSR or higher tier, and that's going to be Yaku, Kenma, Lief, and also Kuro. And basically, because you can't actually play multiple characters of the same name, so that basically means if you actually want to build a Nekoma team and maximize your overall team power, you kind of need all 4 of them. So if you do actually want to go down that route, you kind of need to pull on everyone. Now, if we don't actually talk about Nekoma team, then let's actually take a look at the characters one by one. Kenma is going to be the best SSR character for the receive specialty for the setters. Now, eventually he will be power crept by his own SP version, but that's quite a far time down the line. So if you just want to have a good Nekoma team or receiving team for the time being, then you kind of need the setup. Now, if you don't actually want to build specific for Nekoma team, and let's say you already have 2 SSR setter going on, or maybe you only have 1 SSR, however you are planning to put on a future UR setter, and I say 2 setters in this game is going to be a safe bet, so that no matter what opponent's speciality is, you can always have these at least a neutral advantage over them. So that's kind of why if you are planning to have at least 2 SSR or UR setter on your team, then you can potentially skip Kenma. But otherwise, Kenma is not going to be a bad choice if you do want to go down that Nekoma or receiving playstyle. Okay, then we move on to Yaku. Yaku is probably the most important character for the Nekoma team, in my opinion, because he has one of the most broken game mechanic where he is able to turn any normal receive into perfect receive. Now, this is an absolute game-changing game mechanic. I'll talk about the importance of like normal, bad, and perfect in the future. But basically, he is, in my opinion, the best SSR, and I would say he can even rival some of the UR liberal and SP liberal future down the line. And not to mention, liberal is literally the last position that we are gonna get a UR character, what upgraded to a UR or SP character in the future. Like we'll be getting all of the other positions first, and liberal is one of the last gap to be filled. So if you do actually want to summon on Yaku, it's definitely a good choice because he is literally going to be your best liberal for a very, very long time. And like I said, he can definitely even rival some of the SP or the UR in my opinion. So he doesn't even have to go into a Nekoma team. You can totally play him by himself because he is that best liberal in the game. Then we move on to the UR character. Now, he is going to be the best mid blocker for a long time. He is good both defensively and also offensively. The biggest problem I find with him is the fact that we will all be getting Suki. Well, everyone already got Suki on day 7, so everyone already have a mid blocker. And vast majority of the time, you would actually set your liberal setting to swap out your mid blocker because mid blocker can't actually receive. So that basically makes it very awkward in the sense that you are normally competing for just one mid blocker position on your team. And because everyone already got Suki for free, the value of Kuro basically means that you either have to swap out your Suki or you kind of are then forced to actually not set your liberal to swap out your mid blocker, but maybe to swap out another position. Overall, what that basically means is that unless you're going for a Nekoma team, in which case you kind of do need him as the force SSR, or you are anyway on the team, or if you actually go for a quick attack team, in which case you normally want to keep both of your mid blocker because they are the ones that you quick spike. Otherwise, the value of Kuro is able to provide to your team is not going to be as much as some of the improvement to other positions. Now, that's not to say Kuro is not bad. Is a bad character. It's simply because of the fact that his position mid blocker just happened to be the one that we probably don't need a massive upgrade because everyone got Suki on day 7. So that's going to be my personal opinion on Kuro. But of course, if you do want that higher raw stat because he's an UR character or you just really want to play for a Nekoma team, then feel free to go ahead for it. Well, a quick spike team. He's also going to be very good for a quick spiking team. Then do you go ahead for it. Now, the next school we should be getting should be Shiratorizawa, and we should be getting that because we already have Yushijima in game already. Now, the first character that will be released from the school is going to be the setter, Kenjiro. Now, it will be interesting to see how global does it, because the Japanese server and Taiwan server actually had a bit of discrepancy when releasing him. I can't remember which way around it was, but on one server it's released as a battle pass character, so it's like how Hinata is right now, and then on the other server he will just release as a normal banner. So it'll be interesting to see which way global goes. But in either way, he is possibly one character that you can skip, mainly because he's a power spike setter, and there are loads of other future good power spike setter which are so much better than him. So vast majority of the time, if you do summon him, he's going to be decent. He's still very good, but he is just going to be for that transition period till a stronger power spike setter is going to be released in the future. So personally, if you are short on your resources, I'll probably just skip him. Now, the next one that will be released is going to be the Liberal from his school, from Shiratorizawa. He is a pretty average Liberal, to be honest. I'll probably put him on the same tier as Nishinoya, but definitely a lot worse than Yaku. So it's going to be up to you whether you actually want to summon him or not. Vast majority of the time, you will be playing him just to fulfill that 4 character from the same school to activate the Shiratorizawa school bond. So that's pretty much his main usage, okay? Then next we are gonna get 2 more characters from the school. One's gonna be Tendo, and one is gonna be this Wind Spiker Rio. I think that's his name. Both of them are actually very strong. Both of them typically are placed alongside with Ushijima as the core trio for any Shiratorizawa team. The fourth member, sometimes you play the Liberal, sometimes you play Goshiki, but those three, the three I just mentioned, Tendo, Rio, I think that's his name, and also Ushijima, those three are pretty much always going to be fixed on any Shiratorizawa team, okay? So that's kind of what both of them are very important if you want to go for that school bomb. Now, Tendo is basically have a higher crit rate in terms of any blocks and stuff, and then this Wind Spike have a higher crit rate when you do receive and stuff. Now, Tendo can definitely be played outside of Shiratorizawa because it's actually very good. However, just like the problem with you are Virgin Kuro, you are kind of fighting for that one mid blocker space, and because you already have Suki, free mid blocker, so that's kind of why if you're not playing for Shiratorizawa team, even though Tendo is going to be very good, I'll probably advise against it purely because you don't really need a second mid blocker, no matter how good he is. Whereas for this Wind Spiker, he is also very good. Now, if you don't actually have him at high dupes, he is just going to be a good receiving Wind Spiker, which kind of fits the playstyle of Shiratorizawa, because vast majority of the time you'll be using your Ushijima to do the spiking and the offense anyway, so you kind of need your Wind Spike to be a bit more defensive, so that definitely works. But what also makes him really shines is that if you actually max dupe him, so when he actually activates his skill resonance level, the highest level, he's actually able to reduce the cooldown of other characters' ultimate skill whenever he crit, and that immediately then make him actually playable outside of Shiratorizawa team as well, because you can just use him as a support utility character to reduce the cooldown for other characters' ultimate. So he's definitely very good if you actually consider going max dupe him, but otherwise both of them are solid members of Shiratorizawa team, okay? Then the last Shiratorizawa, oh no, there are 2 more Shiratorizawa team members actually. You then have the second Wind Spiker, Goshiki, and also you have the second setter. Now, the second setter is quite straightforward. This is just a pinch server. You pinch server for the setter position. Vast majority of the time, you just be skipping that because a lot of setters can already serve by themselves. So there's pretty much no value add here. I think he is also a battle pass character as well. Also, I think he is also a battle pass character. Don't quote me on this because once again, we have already seen the Japanese server and Taiwan server had discrepancy between battle pass characters, so it may not actually be the case on global, but at least on Taiwanese server, I believe both of them were battle pass character. And then for Goshiki, basically the same with him is that he has the potential to be your main ace on the team, so he can do back-to-back spiking ultimate, just like what Ushijima is able to do. However, if you already have Ushijima on the team, Ushijima will be doing all of the spiking, then you don't actually need him. So a vast majority of the time, you wouldn't actually be playing him because he is essentially fulfilling the same role that Ushijima is going to do, but just not going to be as strong in terms of spikes or serves, etc. So vast majority of the time, if you do actually summon for him, it'd be more for if you actually want to build a Shiratorizawa team, but without Ushijima inside, which personally, I don't actually think that's a good idea. But if you do really like Shiratorizawa team for some reason, or maybe you actually want to build two teams around Shiratorizawa, one which is around Yoshijima and another one without Yoshijima, then definitely he can fulfill that role of an ace spiker in that team. But otherwise, I'll probably say he's an easy skip character as well because Yoshijima just does it better. Okay. Now that's basically going to be the Shiratorizawa team. However, there's going to be one other character which is often played alongside with Yoshijima and Shiratorizawa, and that's going to be the UR setter Oikawa. Now this is basically one of the main characters that I said that is going to power grab the main setter from Shiratorizawa, and that's kind of why he was a skip, because you would then kind of wanting to save your resources for Oikawa. Now Oikawa is great. He has the best serve in the game, like hands down the best serve in the game. He is able to do back-to-back serve ace, and he is also able to increase the whole team's crit rate whenever he does so, etc. as well. And that basically makes him perfect synergy with Shiratorizawa, because a lot of characters from Shiratorizawa have skills which are dependent or only activated when you actually do a critical hit. So that's kind of why he is normally played alongside with Shiratorizawa as their main setter. Okay. Now the next school that should be added will be Fukurodani, and obviously the UR banner will be for the ace Bakuto. Now Bakuto, just like the original series, it's going to be played kind of dependent on your team morale, and he would actually enter emo mode when your team exits team morale stage. So that's kind of why, to kind of help you to fix some of that issue, he is normally played alongside with the setter Akashi, and so they are basically normally bundled up together in order to bring the best out of Bakuto. Now, because Akashi is going to be a power spike setter, that basically limits the fact that you can't actually be expecting to play him in all kind of different stages depending on the opponent's specialty. So the value of Bakuto is going to take a slight hit as a result of that. However, having said that, even out of all of the power spike setters, Akashi is still among the best one, even though he's only SSR. Now, he doesn't have any strong serves such as what Oikawa is able to provide, but he has a very unique game mechanic in the sense that whenever he crit, whoever he set the ball to will automatically crit as well. So in some sense, you can almost make him with a full crit build, and then that free up the crit slot for all of your other characters. So that's basically what makes him very, very good. And he also have a very interesting combo with loads of other spikers in this game outside of Bakuto. So both of them are definitely very, very good. Now, whether you actually want to summon on them, it's going to also slightly depend on the fact that both of them is going to have their SP versions in the future. So obviously you can, of course, go and summon for them straight away. Right now, this UR version and also this SSR setup. However, just knowing that eventually they would be power grabbed by their own SP counterpart. So do bear that in mind if you do decide to summon for them. Now, for Fukurodani, the next two characters will be released. It's going to be the mid blocker and also the opposite hitter. Now, Fukurodani for me is a bit of a special case in terms of school bond, because their school bond is not actually that good. It's just a straight up, I think, like increase of 20 morale points, and it's just a one-off buff. So that's kind of why I don't actually think you necessarily have to play 4 characters from the same school in order to fulfill that school bond. Now, having said that, both this mid blocker and also opposite hitter do have the ability to add extra morale through their, I think, like dupe resonance effect. So it's not a bad idea, and they definitely do have synergy with Bakuto. However, I'm just kind of going to point out that you don't necessarily have to play 4 characters from the Fukurodani school in order to benefit from their school bond, because in my opinion, it's probably one of the weakest school bond out there. So they can potentially be a skip as well if you actually just decide to play Bakuto and Akashi, and then maybe actually fit into another team with 4 other characters from a different school. So that is also another choice that you can do instead. Then once you have those 2 characters released, eventually you're also going to get one of the Mia twins, which I'll talk about in a bit, but you're also going to get 2 more characters kind of in this timeline. One is going to be for the liberal, and then this other guy from a different school, which I actually forgot now, but basically he's the only SSR for his school, so you can pretty much just ignore him altogether, even though he's actually decent by himself. But vast majority of the time, they're much better choices for Wind Spiker, and you don't really fulfill any bonds at all by playing him, so he's like an easy skip. And then in terms of this liberal, he's actually very good if the opponent is doing power spikes, so you have to be very specific about the lineup that you're facing, but vast majority of the time he is going to be overshadowed by Yaku. So once again, if you already have Yaku as your SSR, or maybe even Nishinoya, who is able to do other things, then you don't really need him either. And once again, you don't even need this liberal, in order to fill a school bond, so he can be an easy skip as well. And then we'll be moving on to the Inarizaki era, and we'll be starting off with the Miya twins, so Asumu and also Osamu, and then follow up with Kita and also the mid blocker, and then eventually another wing spiker, the other two wing spiker of the team. Now, let's start off with the Miya twins. Now, first of all, you have to understand for Inarizaki, the team is actually going to be very, very different to any other school team we have seen so far, in the sense that a lot of players from their school cannot actually crit. So if you actually do decide to go for Inarizaki team, you're almost playing a completely different playstyle to a lot of the other characters you may have been building up to this day. Because for example, if you're playing Shiratorizawa or Abajosai, what you may be doing is actually having lots of characters who are able to boost your crit rate or crit damage, and that may be the way you're training up your potential, leveling up your potential as well. However, once you get to Inarizaki, you kind of need to change that completely. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because in future there will be other characters who are actually able to counter characters with high crit rate. So this is almost like a counter to those counters. So this is definitely why they're very interesting. But just kind of to warn you guys up front, if you do want to go down the Inarizaki route, you may actually need to rebuild your team completely from scratch. Now, the same with Miya twins is that first of all, if we talk about the setup, he is a quick spike setup. However, he faces a very fierce competition in the sense that we are also going to get another UR quick spike setter in the form of Kageyama. And because Kageyama is a Karasuno player, you are likely to have lots of already Karasuno player leveled up, so have much easier time to synergize. And also, he actually utilize our crit rate, etc. So you're gonna find yourself much easier to actually integrate Kageyama into a team rather than the Miya twins. So that's kind of why if you actually just want to compare them, you have to first think about how much extra resource you may need to consider in order to actually build a team completely from scratch to fulfill that Inarizaki school synergy or school tactic. So that's basically going to be your biggest consideration for whether you actually want to decide to pull on Asumu. Now, Osamu for me, on the other hand, is actually probably the better UR to pull if you can only decide on one of them, and that's because he's the only opposite hitter who's actually capable of doing quick spike. So even though we already have another UR opposite hitter such as Ushijima, the two are totally different roles, because Ushijima is doing power spike, whereas Osamu is the only opposite hitter doing quick spike. So even if you actually decide not to play Asumu, but instead go for Kageyama as your quick spike setter, Osamu is still going to be there on the team in order for that firepower to really shine through, because you want multiple people who are able to do quick spikes, right? And a lot of time you actually want to have a second quick spiker point outside of the mid blocker. So that's kind of why he's, to me, it's going to be a lot more flexible and also a lot more valuable than his brother. Now, then we move on to the SSR. Kita is one of the best SSR in my opinion. He is a full defensive SSR. I think all four of his skills are on the defensive end. He literally don't spike at all. However, a lot of time you don't actually need another wing spike to spike, because as the game progresses, you're going to find more and more characters who are able to continuously spam their ultimate, and therefore it's going to be less reliant for you to have all of your characters capable of doing your offensive attacks. So that's kind of why Kita is going to be one of the best choice for those kind of teams, where you just need someone a wing spike position there for the defensive capability rather than trying to do a spike. So that's kind of why he's very good. He also have a very strong supporting skill in the sense that he can actually restore stamina. So even if you don't actually play him in Inarizaki team, he's still going to do very, very well. So he's going to get my strongest recommendation as one of the must pull SSRs. Okay, now those three, so basically the Miya twins and also Kita, they are kind of the must have for any Inarizaki team. And then as the fourth member, if you do want to go down that school bond, is the fact that you actually want either the mid blocker or the liberal. Now the mid blocker is very strong both defensively, because he's actually able to land debuff, and also offensively he's one of the few characters who are actually able to take full advantage of the buff from Asumu. So if you do actually want to go for Inarizaki team, I would definitely highly recommend having him on your team as that fourth member of the school. Now if you are not going to go for an Asumu setter and instead you want to go for Kageyama, then I'll probably say you probably don't actually need to go after him, and then you can switch to a different mid blocker instead. But yeah, he is probably going to be my recommendation for the fourth member of the Inarizaki school bond. The liberal, I don't actually have him up here, but the liberal is also very strong as well. So if you don't actually want to go for mid blocker as the fourth position, then you probably just want to go for that liberal instead. But either one of them is going to be something you want on your team. Then we move on to the remaining two characters, which is the two other wind spiker. This guy who I completely forgot his name. He is like basically a weaker version of Kita in the sense that he's mainly used for defensive capability, but nowhere near as good as Kita. And in fact, he was actually given out for free on the Taiwanese server. So that basically just shows, you know, how not good he is, because he literally the game gave out him for free. And then on the other hand, you have Aaron, who is basically like another version of Asahi in the sense that he actually consumes a lot of stamina to do a power spike. Now, first of all, for Inarizaki team, vast majority of the time you're going down the quick spike route, so you don't really need another power spiker on your team. And then the second thing, the stamina consumption is just massive, that I don't really think he's going to be worth it. So he is going to be another easy skip as well. And now that just leaves two characters remaining on this post, which is going to be two more UR characters. So we have Hoshiyumi and also Hirogami. Now, I won't go into too much details in terms of those two, purely because they are just so good. They're a bit of a must-have. Their kit a bit more complicated as well, so I'll probably just do a full showcase a bit closer to the date of their actual launch. But all you need to know is that they are the best characters in this game, right? So this is the best mid blocker in the game. This is the best wind spark in the game. And what makes them so perfect is that they are actually the only two characters right now from their school, and they have a very good school player bond amongst the two of them. And what's going to happen vast majority of the time is that you'll be playing them regardless of what school or what team you'll be playing. So let's imagine you have a team of 7 characters on the field, right? 4 of them you will need in order to fill a school bond, and then out of the remaining 3 you will almost always see the 2 of them together. So that's kind of why they are just so versatile that you can literally fit them into any single team, and they are just that good enough for them to be on every single team as well. So they are kind of the 2 UR characters that you must be saving your summons for.